Alright, so we're back for another Whiteboard Wednesday. I'm here with Jake Robinson. I'm Matt Hunkler, your hosts of Whiteboard Wednesday.
Feels like it's been a while.
It has been a while. Lots going on here at Bluelock, but we're back at it again. And last time, we made a promise to you that we would cover a little bit about compliance, because last time we were talking about security and how we can achieve that in the cloud. Well, this time, I'd like it if, Jake, we could kind of talk through compliance kind of at a higher level. We don't want to necessarily get into the details of some of the specific compliance issues, but maybe just talk kind of at a broader level, and then maybe we can answer questions or comments that we get on YouTube or on our blog. So if you could just kind of, from a very high level, explain compliance in the cloud, maybe why there's some concern around that, but then also how maybe companies could mitigate that to, in the end, create value for their clients.
Right. There are a lot of concerns about compliance in the cloud, but I know a lot of companies that are actually turning to the cloud for compliance as well.
Okay.
So maybe their in-house IT staff is not up to snuff on compliance, or maybe their infrastructure is not up to snuff. Maybe they don't have those processes and procedures in place to do it in-house. So they're outsourcing it. They're outsourcing their compliance, they're outsourcing their infrastructure to attain these compliance things. So there are a lot of third-party PCI compliant, for instance, companies out there. So you can go through PayPal or whatever. But a lot of companies do want to keep it in-house instead of going to a kind of a third party like that.
And outsourcing the IT part, that's one less thing for them to worry about. If the IT company can, or the cloud company can help them virtualize and jump through some of those hoops for them.
Right.
Is that right? Okay, great. So maybe what we could do is whiteboard out a few things. I know that there are a couple different levels when you're talking about compliance. Looking at the data center and the platform and software as a service. We're kind of that infrastructure as a service platform, but maybe you could speak to that a little bit and maybe whiteboard that out for us.
Sure, absolutely. We'll go with green today. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
So, when it comes down to it, you've kind of got this stack of services or responsibilities.
Okay.
And it all starts with the data center. So your hardware is stored here, you've got employees here, all your data is stored in this data center. So a real common one for a data center is the SAS 70 compliance. There's a SAS 70 Type 2 compliance. That's
high level of compliance, right?
Right. So a lot of compliance, a lot of regulations look at what type of data center this is at. So maybe your in-house IT staff can't meet the SAS 70 Type 2 compliance,
right,
which is something I actually had run into personally. We had to actually put our servers in a different location because we couldn't meet the SAS 70 Type 2 compliance. So that's an important part.
That's in a former company, right?
That's right.
Just to stipulate, Bluelock is SAS 70 Type 2 certified.
We are.
Yeah.
We are. So we do have annual audits, and we go through the whole process, and we live it. So it's good.
Great.
I would say the next step up from this is infrastructure as a service. So we can probably talk about that a little bit later. I mean, I always do that, don't I?
Yeah.
I kind of say something, and then we're like, we just set up our next Whiteboard Wednesday. So infrastructure as a service, this company may or may not be the data center. A lot of times it is.
Yeah.
But this is the layer that's providing our virtual machines and our firewalls, anything infrastructure related, our network pipes, our encryption, all that.
Right.
So this layer will also have its own set of regulations that they have to comply with.
Right.
The next step up is the platform as a service. So now we're getting into our platforms, like are we running, Apache or IIS, the different type of web platforms or database platforms that they have out there.
Okay.
So there's another layer of compliance levels that we have to meet here. And then on top, yay.
2 A's in there.
Thank you.
Software as a service.
Thanks. I can spell. So our software as a service is yet another set of processes, procedures, controls, regulations that we have to meet. So as you can see, as we outsource more and more of this, the client control that they have over it goes down.
Right. But then at the same time, the level of risk that they are personally dealing with goes down as well, right?
Right. So, and this is where we get into the problem is, as this goes up, the client risk goes down, but are these providers taking that responsibility?
Right.
And that's the big concern over cloud computing is what happens if we get hacked and our client data or the health information gets out.
Whose fault is it?
Whose
Who
fault
took the
is
risk?
it? Right.
So there's a lot of things that go into maybe the contract and the way that the deal is put together in terms of where that risk falls.
Right.
Okay.
So from a Bluelock standpoint, we provide tools and services to help you out. So our responsibility, kind of ends here.
Right. So we're down here.
Right. But we can also provide tools to help you with kind of this stuff here.
Yeah, those are some of the monitoring tools, things like Shavlik, right?
Correct. So we use Shavlik as a scanning tool to go through, and we can set up PCI, HIPAA,
right,
all kinds of templates that will go through and scan the infrastructure, scan the platforms to handle that.
Right. So you just mentioned PCI compliance, HIPAA compliance. There's also, Sarbanes-Oxley or SOX or SARBOX. Could you talk about maybe what each of those is? Just at a very high level. Obviously, there are lots of details.
So PCI, the payment card information. If you're storing payment card information, credit card numbers, stuff like that, you need to be PCI compliant,
right?
Certified. The HIPAA compliance is mainly around medical information.
Yep.
So if companies are storing medical information on their servers, they need to comply with that. And then Sarbanes-Oxley or SOX is mainly around the banking industry.
Yeah, and then I guess the other one we mentioned is the SAS 70, and that's more at the data center level.
Right. So a lot of those controls, processes, and procedures in SAS 70 relate to all the other compliance.
Right.
So I would say the SAS 70 is kind of a foundational thing, with processes, procedures, and controls that are a basis for the rest of the compliance.
Okay. So I guess going back to this model here, I know we kind of jumped around a little bit, but going back to data center infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, it's important to be compliant at all these levels. And I guess kind of what you're saying, that it is possible with cloud computing and virtualization. It's a matter of who's taking on that responsibility, who's taking on that risk.
Right.
It's almost more of a business issue than an IT issue. Okay, great. So I guess to kind of wrap things up, when you're thinking about meeting compliance in the cloud, it's important to make sure that you get those things included into a contract, or at least understand who's taking on the risk and what pieces your outsourced IT company or at whatever level, what pieces people are handling, because it's important that in PCI or HIPAA or SOX that everything is being met.
Right. If you're going to get at this level, you still need the documentation for all these levels, and they should be providing this.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thanks, Jake. I think that's a very informative Whiteboard Wednesday. And if people have questions, feel free to hit us up in the comments, and we'll see you next time.